Hi, and welcome to Amy Learns to Cook. On the show today, we're going to do a food processor showdown. We are going to take 4 food processors and put them to the test to see which one comes out on top. We have an inexpensive Black & Decker 8-cup food processor. We have a Cuisinart 7-cup. We have a KitchenAid 11-cup. And we have a Breville 16-cup. Now join me as we do our food processor showdown. So we're going to rate the food processors on 5 different categories. We're going to be looking at the overall look and feel of the food processor. We're going to be looking at the mini chopping capabilities. We're going to be looking at the main chopping blade. We're going to be looking at the slicing and the shredding disc. Now I do realize that these food processors are different sizes, and it's just what I have to test. But it'll give us a good idea which brands can handle the basic functions that a food processor should be able to handle: chopping, slicing, and shredding. Those are essentials for the food processor, and we want to pick one that can do a good job across the board on all those tasks. So our first contender is the Breville Sous Chef. This is the Cadillac of food processors. It is in the $400 price range. It comes with a lot of attachments in a big container to hold the attachments. It has tons of different blades, even a blade to make meringue. So the second contender is the KitchenAid 11-cup food processor. It has a lot of features like the Breville. It has the small work bowl and the large work bowl, and it also has a lever that you can adjust the slicing blade from the outside. It too comes with a holder for all your blades, but the blades are limited compared to the Breville. It has the basic slicing, shredding, and chopping blades, and a dough blade. So the third contender is the Cuisinart Prep 7-cup food processor. It's a very basic machine. It has a wide food tube, but it does not have a prep bowl, a small prep bowl. It comes with the usual slicing, shredding, and chopping blades, but it does not have its own container. So I have to keep it in this little plastic shoebox container. Okay, the fourth and final contender is the Black & Decker 8-cup food processor. Now I have this one on loan from a friend of mine. I just wanted to bring an inexpensive food processor into the mix. And when we're talking basic, we're talking basic. Because this thing has a very narrow feed tube, and it only has minimal attachment. It has a slicer and shredder on one blade and a chopper on another blade. So we're going to test this out against the more expensive ones to see how it performs. The cost on this is $26 at Walmart. Okay, the test is going to consist of chopping parsley and chopping onion. We're going to slice a tomato, slice potato, and we're going to shred some cheese. The first category is the overall look and feel of the food processor. And it's relatively okay looking. It only comes in one color. The biggest problem I have is that the bottom of it has these suction cups. And I would imagine that is because it would go walking off the counter without it. Those are kind of a pain because when you move it around, every time you do anything with it, the suction cups stick. So you constantly have to pull these suction cups off. So that right there is a major negative to me. I also really don't like this teeth thing where the bowl connects, because they're really cheap plastic pieces, and I have a feeling that this is just going to rip if I use this for any heavy dough or anything. So that's definitely a drawback. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chop some parsley. So we're going to put our parsley in here. This does not have a mini bowl, so you're going to have to put the parsley in the main bowl here. And we're going to go ahead and put that on and give it a pulse. And we're going to go ahead and chop. Tomato we're going to slice, and we are going to be using the feed tube. I had to cut this down because if I wanted slices this way, I'm really not going to get them. So I'm going to have to put it in this way, which is going to make it kind of odd. So we'll see how this goes. Grate some cheese. Yeah, that pretty much bogged down there. There's a lot of extra cheese right here that's not processed. Oy. This is the Cuisinart Prep 7 cup. The overall look and feel is really nice. It's a nice, heavy, substantial machine for its size. Compared to the other one, it is like day and night, right? It's got a really nice, wide feed tube. It's easy to get the lid off. There is an interlock, so it's going to limit the height of the food that you use. But it is like, the feel of it is day or night compared to the last one. It's got some tools in here that we're going to be used to do our jobs. Okay, the very first thing is we're going to cut our parsley, and this doesn't have a small bowl, so we're going to be using the main bowl. I'm going to go ahead and give it a pulse. This machine is much quieter than the other one. You can put it through the feed tube because it's pretty big, but I just put it like that. Okay, so now we're going to chop a tomato, and I had to cut the tomato because it didn't fit in the feed tube, even though this is a little bigger. So we're going to go ahead and next is the potato. Wow, that was really cool. KitchenAid. It is a very light food processor. It's surprisingly light. That could be a positive or a negative. I don't know in terms of the longevity if that is a positive or a negative. It does have a lot more features than the other one, and it does have this to hold your tools. So this one has a mini bowl inside. We're going to go ahead and use that to chop the parsley. We're going to go ahead and put our parsley in the mini bowl, and we're going to go ahead and give it a pulse. Wow. This thing is having a little bit of trouble. It seems like it's kind of slow, which makes me believe that the motor doesn't have a whole lot of power. Okay, next we are going to chop our onion, and we're using the big blade and the big bowl. And I'm using just the middle setting. The cheese, and this wide mouth makes it nice because you can put it in the whole thing in there. Wow. Okay, so this is the Breville Sous Chef. It's a very feature-rich machine. It is also one of the most expensive. Well, it is the most expensive. It is a very heavy machine. It is very substantial, and I feel that it probably would last longer just because it just is a higher quality machine. It comes with a lot of different attachments, all the blades that you would want with it, but you're also going to pay for that, right? Okay, so we're going to chop some parsley in the mini bowl, and this has a unique mini bowl that it comes up at the top, so technically you can feed stuff in the mini bowl through the feeder. Put this in, and we're just going to give it a pulse. Nice. And we're going to slice the potato. Wow. And last, we're going to shred some cheese. don't have much left of the blade at all. Okay, the first up is a Black & Decker in terms of our analysis. Now, potatoes will discolor very quickly. This was the first one we did, and the potatoes are discoloring. They will discolor when they hit stainless steel, because some reason stainless steel and potatoes have a reaction that they turn pink. So we won't discount them based on that. But I would say the Black & Decker had some serious problems. Number one, the feed tube was so small that I had to cut these potatoes really small to get through it. They're uneven, they're not good. The tomatoes are mangled, totally and completely mangled. I don't even think there's one tomato here that's even chopped decently. Onions are fine, did well on chopping. Cheese, it was a total fail. It ended up grating it, but there's huge chunks left over, and it just jammed the machine doing it. So it was a fail. Parsley did a fairly good job. I give it, a good on parsley. So the Black & Decker, overall look and feel, was a D. It didn't have any mini chopping. The main chopping, I gave it an A because it did fairly well. Slicing, I gave it a C. And for the shredding, it was a fail. Okay, for the Cuisinart. The overall look and feel of the Cuisinart I felt was really outstanding. It's a nice, heavy feeling, quality filling machine, and I gave it an A. It doesn't have a mini chopping bowl, so we did the chopping of the parsley and the onions in the main bowl, and I pretty much gave it an A. It's a little, it could be just because my pulsing. It didn't exactly chop it, uniform, but for a food processor, it's fairly decent. And same with the parsley. So that I pretty much gave an A because it's basically with the standard. Slicing, I gave it a B. It did okay, but there's a lot of mangling going on. Certainly not at the level that the Black & Decker was, but it just really isn't all that great. I gave it a B, but it really isn't all that great. Potatoes turned out fine. They're not reacting as fast to the stainless steel and turning pink. Potatoes will discolor, but also stainless steel really makes them discolor. And it didn't do it quite as bad. So potatoes don't react so bad with the blade. Lastly, the cheese. Did fairly well with the cheese. I would say there was a huge chunk left over, and I think I had a little bit of trouble getting it through there. Gave it like a B- on the shredding of the cheese. Next on the KitchenAid, the overall look and feel of the KitchenAid, I gave a B. It's a very attractive machine, but also it's very lightweight, and I'm concerned about the longevity. I don't think it's quite the same quality in terms of the motor and all that as the Cuisinart and the Breville. It is an attractive machine, so I gave it a B on that, but it just really is a little lightweight than I would really want to see on a food processor in that sort of price range. It's sort of in the $200 price range. In terms of the mini bowl, I had a lot of trouble with the mini bowl. Look at that big piece of parsley. To get it to really get going in there, by the time I chopped up everything, the stuff that it started chopping up, it just killed it, right? So it way over chopped the that. So I gave that a C, and that I think that's kind of generous. In terms of the main chopping bowl, I gave it an A. It's in line with all the other food processors that we've seen. It's fairly even. There's a couple uneven things, but it did a good job in that. Slicing, it did a fairly good job. The tomatoes aren't quite as mangled as the Cuisinart, but they're not great. So they got a B on that. Shredding, they got a B. Shredded it fairly decently. It felt like it had a lot of power, and there was no bogging down like on that Black & Decker. There were still little big pieces. It shredded fairly well. I gave it a B just because it was, good but average. Okay, to the Breville. Now, the Breville is the most expensive machine. It is $400 or just over $400. And depending on your price point, it is an investment, but I really think that based on the test that we've had here today, that the Breville is 100% the winner. It excelled on everything. The mini chopping bowl is great because it's flared, so you can actually use the feed tube on it. Parsley came out just really outstanding. The chopping, the onions came out as what you would expect and pretty much was in line with all the other ones. Slicing the tomatoes was really, really nice. These came out thin because of the setting I had the blade on, but it didn't mangle them. They're full and complete slices, and it just gets an A+ on that. The potatoes the same. Nice wide feed tube. Potatoes came out all evenly sliced. These are going to cook up perfectly. This is just A all the way. Shredding, same thing. There was very little left over. There was a little slight mangling of the shredding, and I don't know if that's just because I had the feed tube in there too long. I was pushing the feed tube too fast. But there was hardly any chunk left over on the top of the blade, and the shredding is just outstanding. So I officially declare that the winner of the Food Processor Showdown is the Breville. It is an outstanding machine despite the fact that it's over $400, but it comes with a lot of attachments. It's a very versatile machine. It performed all the tasks outstanding, and it will give you a really good workhorse in your kitchen. Second would be the Cuisinart. I would say that is a best buy. It's around the $150 price range, and it performed all the tasks fairly well. It has a nice substantial motor, and I would say it's definitely a best buy. Now I would leave the Black & Decker on the shelf. Even though it's only $26, it did not perform very well on any of our tests. It's lightweight, and I would say that I would just pass that one up. The KitchenAid is fairly nice. I would say that the Cuisinart beats out the KitchenAid because it just is a better motor to it. It's a nicer feeling machine, and it performed a little bit better on our tests. If you like this video, please subscribe below and leave me a comment and a like. And visit my website at amylearnstocook.com. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest at Amy Learns to Cook.